6 months ago, I proposed to the woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. Her name is Lily, and we'd been together for 5 years. I truly believed we were stepping into the happiest chapter of our lives. The wedding was set for next month. But things didn't go as planned, not even close. To understand how everything fell apart, you need to know where it all started, specifically with my sister Sarah. She's 28 now, 3 years younger than me, and we haven't spoken in over 9 years. And there are solid reasons for that. Growing up, Sarah and I never got along. I don't mean the occasional sibling spat. I mean a deep, constant clash. Our parents were always trying to push us into some ideal version of a brother-sister bond. It never worked. She was relentlessly competitive, constantly trying to one-up me in every possible way. One memory sticks out clearly. I was 10, Sarah was 7. I'd just won a school spelling bee, and our parents took us out for ice cream to celebrate. While I was still basking in the glow of the win, Sarah completely lost it. She started screaming that it wasn't fair that she could spell better than me and demanded our parents quiz her right there in the ice cream shop. It was humiliating. That moment set the tone for our entire childhood. As we got older, her behavior didn't get better. It got sneakier. If I got an A, she'd obsessively study until she got an A too. When I was 12, I won a local art competition. Another dinner celebration, another tantrum from Sarah. She claimed she could draw better, demanded to show her own sketches, and completely hijacked what should have been a happy evening. Everything became a competition. If I joined the basketball team, she suddenly loved basketball. If I had a crush on a girl, Sarah would either befriend her or flirt with her just to get under my skin. Our home was supposed to be a place of peace, but it felt more like a battleground. Our parents tried to fix it. When I was 16 and Sarah was 13, they even sent us to family therapy, but she barely said a word. Arms crossed, face blank, totally disengaged. Eventually, the therapist told our parents that unless Sarah was willing to open up, there wasn't much that could be done. The final straw came in our early 20s. I'd just graduated from college and landed my dream job at a prestigious marketing firm. Great pay, exciting projects, everything I had worked for. I was over the moon. Sarah, meanwhile, was floundering in college. She'd changed majors 4 times and was on the edge of academic probation. At a family dinner, I shared the news about my job. I wasn't bragging, I was genuinely excited. But instead of congratulating me, Sarah exploded. Her face turned red and she started yelling at me, accusing me of being a show-off. "Why do you always have to be the golden child?" she screamed. "Why can't you just fail for once?" It stung. But what really shook me was the look in her eyes, pure rage and envy. My parents tried to calm her down, told her she had time to figure out her path, but she wouldn't listen. She stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to knock a picture off the wall. That night I overheard her on the phone. She didn't know I was nearby. I heard her say, "He's not gonna keep rubbing this in my face. I'll make sure he's knocked down a peg or two." I told myself she was just venting. We'd fought before, right? This was just another blow-up. I had no idea how wrong I was. A few days before I was set to start my new job, I got an email from the firm's HR department. They had done a sudden review of my background due to some disturbing materials they'd received. Someone had sent them fake emails and social media screenshots under my name containing hateful, discriminatory language. It was all fabricated, but they didn't know that. They rescinded my offer. I was stunned, devastated, and I knew exactly who had done it. Sarah was the only one who had access to the kind of personal information needed to make those forgeries believable. When I confronted her, she played dumb at first. But when I pushed harder, her mask slipped. "Maybe you deserve to know what it feels like," she snapped. "You've always been the favorite, the one everyone admires. It's about time you failed." She finally admitted to it all. She had made the fake accounts forge the emails and sent them in just to ruin me. She said it with this twisted sense of satisfaction, like she'd finally won some sick competition. I walked out of the house that day and told her I never wanted to see or speak to her again. I meant it. In the years that followed, I rebuilt my life. It was slow, painful work. I had to start with a lower-paying job and work my way back up. My parents still saw Sarah occasionally, but they knew not to mention her around me. She was dead to me. And then I met Lily. We met 5 years ago, and from the beginning, it felt like something good was finally happening. She was kind, funny, smart, everything I needed after the years of struggle and betrayal. On our 4th date, I told her about Sarah. I laid it all out. She listened. She told me she understood, and she respected my decision to cut ties. I made one thing crystal clear. Sarah would not be a part of my life, especially not our wedding. At first, Lily seemed to accept that, but as the wedding planning ramped up, she started bringing up Sarah more often. Maybe it's time to forgive and forget, she'd say. I'd shut the conversation down every time. Just the idea of seeing Sarah again made my stomach turn. Still, Lily kept pushing. She never fought me on it directly, just gentle suggestions at first dropped into conversation like they were harmless ideas. But it always felt like she was trying to chip away at something I'd cemented in place for my own protection. And then last week, it all came crashing down. We were finalizing the guest list sitting on the couch with names spread out in front of us. I was exhausted from work and in no mood for another round of the same argument. But Lily wasn't backing off this time. I really think you should reconsider inviting Sarah, she said softly. I looked at her, hoping this was just another suggestion I could brush aside, but her eyes were serious, hopeful, determined. Lily, we've talked about this. She's not coming. End of story. She sighed, clearly frustrated. But it was years ago. People change. Maybe she regrets it. I felt that familiar anger rising in my chest. She destroyed my childhood. She wrecked my career, my reputation. She knew exactly what she was doing. You don't just regret something like that. Lily reached for compromise, but I wasn't having it. I'm not saying it was okay, she said, but maybe she deserves a chance to make it right. I stared at her stunned. Why are you even pushing this? Why does she deserve to be at our wedding? She crossed her arms. Because she's your family. That was it. The line. You think this is about some silly sibling grudge? She didn't just read my diary or steal my lunch money. She sabotaged my life. You're being stubborn, Lily said, her tone sharp. You're punishing her for a mistake she made when she was young. That word mistake set something off in me. You think that was a mistake, I snapped. That was calculated. It wasn't some slip-up. She deliberately ruined my life. Lily shook her head. Maybe she wants to apologize. Maybe I don't care, I shot back. I told you this is a boundary for me. If you can't respect it, maybe we shouldn't be getting married. She looked at me, eyes wide with disbelief. You're seriously saying that over this? Yes, because it's not just about her, it's about trust. You knew how much this meant to me, and you still tried to push it. The silence after that felt heavier than anything I'd ever experienced. Lily whispered, I thought love meant forgiveness. I shook my head. Love also means respect, and you're not respecting me. She stood up and walked away. And, just like that, the foundation of everything we'd built began to crack. The silence after that argument stretched on like a heavy fog. Lily barely spoke to me the next day. When she did, her words were short-clipped, polite in the way strangers talk when they're stuck in an elevator. No yelling, no accusations, just this cold distance that hurt worse than any shouting match. I kept thinking it would pass, that this was just a bad fight we'd recover from. We'd been through so much together, surely one disagreement, even a big one, wasn't going to unravel 5 years. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. Trust had cracked, and once that happens, it's hard to pretend everything's fine. Something sacred had been broken. A week later, everything exploded. I got home late from work, drained, and ready to collapse into bed. But the second I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. Lily was sitting at the dining table, her face pale, her hands trembling. The air felt thick, like the moments before a thunderstorm. What's going on? I asked, wary. She looked up at me, her eyes rimmed red. Brian, I need to tell you something. My stomach dropped. What is it? I asked, already dreading the answer. She hesitated, her voice barely a whisper. I reached out to Sarah. At first, I didn't process the words. I thought maybe I'd heard her wrong. You what? I found her on social media a few months ago, she said, tears welling up in her eyes. I've been talking to her. I wanted to understand what happened between you two. And I invited her to the wedding. For a moment, it felt like the floor dropped out beneath me. I couldn't breathe. You invited her, I said, my voice shaking. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I thought it was the right thing to do. I thought if she came, maybe you two could finally... No. I cut her off, anger tightening every word. You went behind my back. You did exactly what I told you not to do. You betrayed me. Brian, please, she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. I love you. I was just trying to help. Help, I laughed bitterly. You think this is helping? You knew how I felt, and you did it anyway. This isn't love, Lily. It's manipulation. She reached for me, but I stepped back. I couldn't let her touch me, not with my heart breaking apart like this. There's more, she said, her voice cracking. I thought she changed. I really did, but when I spoke to her, I realized I was wrong. I didn't say anything, just stared. She said, oh, you're his new girl. How can you even be with such a loser? I clenched my fists, the old pain flaring hot in my chest. Of course, Sarah hadn't changed. Of course, she would lash out, even at someone trying to show her kindness. That's when I realized you were right all along, Lily whispered. I was so wrong to reach out. I thought I was helping, but I only made things worse. I see now how much she hurt you. I'm so sorry. Her words hung in the air, heavy and hollow. They didn't make me feel better. If anything, they made it worse, because she had the chance to trust me, and she didn't. You should have trusted me, I said quietly. You should have listened. She broke down then, burying her face in her hands, but I couldn't bring myself to comfort her. If you can't respect me enough to trust my judgment, I said, then we have nothing left. Don't say that, she cried. We can fix this. I shook my head, the pain too sharp to hold in. No, Lily, you broke my trust. And without that, there's nothing left to fix. I walked out of the room, my chest tight, my heart pounding like a drumbeat of finality. I knew it was over. I didn't want it to be, but it was. That night, I slept in the guest room, or at least I tried to. I spent most of the night staring at the ceiling, playing every word over and over again. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the silence. By morning, everything felt different, heavier. I could hear her moving around, the quiet sounds of packing. I didn't need to ask what she was doing. When she walked into the hallway with her suitcase, our eyes met. Are you sure this is what you want, Brian? She asked, voice soft, eyes full of pain. I swallowed hard. No. This isn't what I want, but it's what you left me with. She wiped her eyes. I never meant to hurt you. I know, I said, my voice cracking, but that doesn't change what you did. She nodded and then turned and walked out the door. The click of the door closing behind her sounded like the end of a chapter. I sank onto the couch, the silence of the apartment pressing in on me. I was alone. And not in the quiet, peaceful way. I was alone in a way that echoed. The next few days were a blur. I officially called off the wedding, canceled the venue, the caterer, the florist. Each call felt like tearing down a dream, one painful piece at a time. The reactions came quickly. Friends were supportive, but confused. Some of Lily's family didn't hold back. Her mom called me a heartless monster, furious that I'd thrown away something perfect over petty family drama. Her brother, who I used to be close with, sent a long, bitter text telling me I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. I didn't respond. They didn't know the whole story. They didn't understand the years of pain, the rebuilding, the trust I'd finally started to feel again, only to have it ripped out from under me. And then my parents decided to get involved. They called constantly, left voicemails that ranged from tearful pleas to full-on guilt trips. Brian, please, my mother said in one, her voice trembling. This could be a chance to heal the family. Don't let this tear everything apart. But I wasn't the one who tore things apart. Sarah had done that years ago, and now Lily had driven the final wedge in. One evening after work, I came home to an email from Sarah. The subject line was simple, I'm sorry. I almost deleted it without opening it, but curiosity got the better of me. It was long. She wrote about how she'd been in therapy for years trying to work through her jealousy and resentment. She admitted that what she'd done was unforgivable, but claimed she was different now. She wanted to reconnect. She wanted to be my sister again. I stared at the email, reading every word, and I felt nothing. No anger, no hope, just exhaustion. How was I supposed to believe that a few years of therapy could undo the damage? How was I supposed to forget the look on her face when she confessed what she'd done to me? I closed the email. I didn't respond. That weekend, I tried to clear my head. I went to the gym, played basketball with some friends, lifted weights until my muscles burned. I needed the physical pain, something to anchor me, something I could control. Afterward, I sat in my car, drenched in sweat, staring out at the parking lot. Was I being too stubborn? Was this all worth losing Lily? I wanted to say no. I wanted to say love was enough. But every time I pictured her inviting Sarah behind my back, I remembered the betrayal, that deep, twisting pain that came not from Sarah this time, but from Lily, from the one person who was supposed to be on my side. No matter how much I loved her, I couldn't ignore what that meant. That Tuesday, I walked into work feeling like a ghost. My boss, Ashley, a tough, no-nonsense woman who had always been in my corner, pulled me aside. "You doing okay?" she asked, her voice softer than usual. "I'm getting there," I said with a weak smile. She nodded. Sometimes standing your ground is the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it's worth it. Her words stuck with me. That night back in my too quiet apartment, I finally deleted Sarah's email. I didn't need to read it again. I already knew my answer. Life didn't stop just because mine felt like it had. After I deleted Sarah's email, I thought I'd feel closure, relief, maybe even a little pride for sticking to my boundaries. Instead, I just felt empty. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. Where there used to be music playing laughter, Lily humming in the kitchen, there was now only silence. Her absence echoed in every corner. Her side of the closet was empty. Her toothbrush was gone. The bathroom shelves looked bare and unfinished, like a story cut off in the middle. And the worst part was, I missed her. Even after everything, after the lies, the betrayal, the disregard for my boundaries, I still missed her. But I also knew I couldn't go back. I buried myself in work, long hours, back-to-back meetings, late-night coding sessions, anything to distract myself. The weight of everything that had happened still lingered, but being busy helped dull the ache. That's when the call started again, this time from my parents. It had been a couple of weeks since the fight with Lily. I hadn't told my parents everything, but they'd heard enough to know the wedding was off. I guess word got around. One evening, my phone buzzed as I was winding down for the night. "Hi, Mom," I said, already dreading whatever was coming. "Brian," she said gently, "please come to dinner this weekend. We need to talk." "I don't think that's a good idea," I replied, my voice tight with exhaustion. "Please," she said again, her voice shaking just enough to get to me. "It's important." Against my better judgment, I agreed. Some foolish part of me hoped maybe this time they'd understand, that they'd see things from my side. That they'd finally realize this wasn't just about family drama, it was about survival, about protecting myself from people who had hurt me deeply. Saturday came and I drove to my parents' house, my stomach in knots. I hadn't been there in a while, and walking up those steps felt like entering a different life. My mom opened the door, smiling too widely. Her hug felt tight and anxious, like she was trying to hold something together. "I'm so glad you came," she whispered. But the moment I stepped inside, I knew something was off. The air was too still. The mood felt staged. And then I saw her, Sarah, sitting at the dining table like she belonged there. She looked up at me, eyes wide. Her expression a mix of guilt and nerves. I froze. "What is she doing here?" I demanded, my voice rising before I could stop it. "Brian, please," my dad said quickly. "We just want to help you make peace." "You ambushed me," I said, the betrayal hitting me square in the chest. "You did this behind my back." "We thought if you two just talked," my mom started, but I cut her off. "You thought wrong," I snapped. Sarah stood up, her voice shaky. "Brian, I just want to apologize." I turned to her, eyes burning. "Apologize? You already admitted what you did. You destroyed my life because you couldn't stand to see me succeed." Her face crumpled, but I couldn't tell if it was guilt or embarrassment. "You don't understand," she said softly. "I've been working on myself. I've been in therapy. I've changed." I shook my head. "You think a few therapy sessions erase what you did? You think I owe you forgiveness just because you feel bad now?" My dad stepped forward. "We just want our family back." "This is your version of family," I asked, my voice bitter. The kind where betrayal is swept under the rug and the person who got hurt is told to get over it. The silence was deafening. My fiancée invited the one person I can't forgive to our wedding, so I had to cancel everything. She thought she was doing the right thing, but her choice reopened wounds I spent years trying to heal. This isn't just a story about a wedding gone wrong. It's about trust betrayal and knowing when to walk away. "I told you where I stood," I said, turning toward the door. "If you can't respect that, I don't know what else to say." My mom's sobs followed me out the door, but I didn't look back. The cold air outside hit my face like a slap, but it was nothing compared to what I felt inside. That night, I sat in my car for a long time before driving home. My phone buzzed with texts, first from my parents, then from Sarah, and even one from Lily. They must have told her what happened. I didn't answer any of them. I wasn't going to explain myself again. I wasn't going to keep justifying why I'd drawn a line and refused to let anyone drag me back over it. When I got home, the apartment no longer felt suffocating. For the first time, the quiet actually felt peaceful, not lonely, just still. I could breathe again. In the days that followed, I stayed off social media. I kept my phone on silent. I went to work, came home, made dinner for one. It wasn't exciting, but it was honest. It was simple. And for now, that was enough. Then, after almost 2 weeks of complete silence, I decided to meet up with friends. I hadn't seen anyone outside of work in a while, and I figured it was time. We went to this little bar downtown, dim lighting, soft music, nothing too loud. As I sipped a drink and listened to the familiar voices around me, I realized how much I'd isolated myself. These people knew me. They'd seen me through hard times. And they still cared. "You did the right thing, man," my friend Sam said, clapping me on the shoulder. "It takes guts to stand up for yourself." I nodded slowly. For the first time, I believed it. Later that night, I went for a walk along the beach. The waves were calm, the air crisp with salt. The city lights twinkled behind me, but out in front was nothing but ocean and stars. I stood there for a long time just breathing. There was still pain, still loss. But for the first time in a long while, there was also space to heal, to start again, to find peace. I didn't know what the future looked like, but I knew what it wouldn't include: people who crossed my boundaries and expected forgiveness without change. People who thought love meant sacrificing my own well-being. I was done compromising who I was just to keep other people comfortable. One step at a time, I'd figure it out. The days stretched into weeks, and slowly life settled into a new rhythm. I wasn't the same person I'd been before the wedding fell apart, before Lily walked out, before my family tried to force reconciliation with someone who'd done so much damage. I felt older, more grounded, not hardened, but changed. There was peace in the quiet now, the kind of peace that comes after a storm when everything is still damp and broken, but at least you know where the pieces are. You know what needs rebuilding. I started spending more time with friends, people who accepted me without asking for explanations. We hiked trails through the coastal cliffs, sat around bonfires on chilly nights, and swapped stories over beers and barbecue. Those moments reminded me of what real connection felt like, free of pressure, free of betrayal, just people showing up for each other. At work, I poured myself into every project. The challenges felt good, like a puzzle I could solve. My boss, Denise, pulled me aside one day after a meeting. "You've been doing great, Brian," she said, smiling. "I can see it. The focus. Keep it up." I nodded, and for the first time in a while, I felt pride. Not the kind tied to external success, but the kind that comes from knowing you've survived something and you're still standing. One weekend, I decided to declutter the apartment. Not out of spite or some dramatic purge, just because I needed the space to feel like mine again. I came across reminders of Lily everywhere: a stray earring, a half-used candle she loved, a list in her handwriting tucked into a drawer. Each item was a memory, a little echo of what we had. But instead of spiraling into grief, I gathered them up carefully, put them in a box, and taped it shut. I didn't need to throw away the past to move on. I just needed to stop letting it crowd the present. I rearranged the furniture, added some plants, hung new art on the walls. It wasn't much, but it helped. It felt like I was slowly reclaiming the space, making it mine again. Then one night, while I was cooking dinner, a hobby I was getting better at, my phone buzzed. A text from my mom. "We miss you. Please talk to us when you're ready." I stared at the screen for a while. The anger from that dinner at their house hadn't disappeared. I still remembered how it felt to walk in and see Sarah sitting there like a trap waiting to spring. But I also knew my parents weren't bad people, just people who didn't understand the depth of what I'd been through. I didn't respond. Not yet. I needed time, and that was okay. A few weeks later, I went to a rooftop party downtown. I almost skipped it, but something told me to go. I needed to be around people to feel normal again. That's where I met Emily. She wasn't dramatic or flashy, just easy to talk to. We ended up sitting off to the side, laughing about bad road trips and arguing about the best taco spot in Austin. She didn't pry or ask about my past. She didn't push. She just listened, laughed, shared. It was simple and refreshing. As the sky turned shades of orange and purple, she smiled and said, "Feel like grabbing a milkshake?" I laughed. "Sure, as long as I don't have to sing karaoke." Her laugh was easy and warm, and for the first time in months, I felt something lift inside me. Not love, not yet, just the quiet comfort of possibility. That night when I got home, I stood by the window and looked out over the city. I wasn't over everything. The scars from Sarah's betrayal and Lily's broken trust were still there, but they didn't define me anymore. They were part of my story, not the whole thing. I had changed. I had grown. I had boundaries now. I had a sense of self I hadn't had before. Sometimes standing your ground costs you people you thought would be with you forever. But it also gives you back yourself. The future was uncertain, sure, But I wasn't afraid of it anymore. I had survived one of the hardest chapters of my life, and I was still here, still standing, still moving, still open to whatever came next. And for now, that was enough.